everyone, welcome back. I'm Morgan, this is my channel, Pisces Paperbacks, and today I'm going to be doing a roundup of some of the romance novels I have read recently. There are going to be three and a novella in this video, and I'm going to be putting out another one of these pretty soon with a different series in them, but let's get started. The first book I want to talk about is Halfway to the Grave by Jeaniene Frost. So this is kind of different than a lot of the other books that I've read because it's a romance novel. Like, I found it because it was in the romance area, but like a section of Libby that I was looking at, but it is an urban fantasy, like urban paranormal fantasy, which is something that I am not. That's not really, like, I read a lot of stuff with vampires in it that's technically urban fantasy, but in this one, like, she's literally like a vampire hunter, which is like not typical of the books I read. So in this book, the main character's name is Cat Raven, and she is half human, half vampire. Her mother was assaulted on a date with someone that she didn't know was a vampire, and Cat was the result of that. So kind of to avenge her mother and try and like get back at like whoever her father was, she kills vampires. And one night she is caught by a vampire named Bones, and he decides that she is useful. So he tricks her, or he doesn't trick her, but he kind of pushes her into making a deal with him where she is allowed to keep killing vampires, but it's going to be the ones that he chooses for her to kill. So he kind of will call the shots as the head vampire mercenary. And it was pretty good. I gave it 3 stars, and I think that's pretty fair. It really, I guess as someone who reads like one-off romances, I'm used to a few more like sex scenes, but it was really good. Their dynamic was really cool, and it was very like Spike, I think. Spike from Buffy, like big vibes of that from Bones. Like, he was very like witty, and he's British, and it was just very like banter, very good. I will say, listen to the audiobook, and the accent that the narrator does for him is atrocious. Like, I almost stopped listening to the book because it was so awful bad. Like, it was very it was like a cross between the chimney sweep in Mary Poppins and like an orphan in Oliver Twist. Like, it was like just so bad, but I pushed through. I'm pretty glad I did. I'm definitely gonna keep reading them. I have the second book in my like on my shelf in Libby, so I want to listen to it, but I've been listening to like the Twilight series and stuff, and I will say that something about it that bothered me was kind of the slut shaming in it. So one of the ways that Cat kind of catches these vampires, or like the main way, is to go to bars and wait for them to hit on her, and kind of as Bones is training her into this vampire assassin, part of the training is learning how to flirt and learning how to act like a slut, almost, is kind of how they talk about it a lot. So Cat herself is modest, but she does kind of internalize some of like the sluttiness of the clothes she has to wear. She like thinks about it and kind of is resentful of it. So there's kind of a lot of that I wasn't expecting. I will also say, trigger warning for discussions of assault. It only happens a couple times, but for the first time, I felt was very out of nowhere. I was very surprised. So that's something to think about going in. But I thought this was a really cool idea for an urban fantasy vampire romance novel. I definitely want to read the rest of them. I will say I'm not used to my romance novels having sequels, like actual sequels. I'm used to it being a series where they're all kind of standalones, where you don't have to have read other books because they're all about different pairings. This is definitely like, Cat is the main character, and she carries throughout the entire series. So the ending of this book isn't like what I'm used to in terms of resolution. The next 2 I want to talk about are both by Tessa Dare. The first one is A Night to Surrender, and the second is Beauty and the Blacksmith. So the first one I'm going to talk about is A Night to Surrender. This is the first book in the Spindle Cove kind of series, and Beauty and the Blacksmith is a novella that happens later on. I actually read Beauty and the Blacksmith first and liked it enough that I wanted to read the series, so I'll talk about this one first. A Night to Surrender, the main character is Susanna Finch, and she is the daughter of the local, like, nobleman, and she lives near a town called Spindle Cove, and Spindle Cove has kind of garnered this reputation for being a good place to send your wayward daughters if they are ill, if they are, you know, in love with the wrong man, if, you know, you don't really know what to do with them. Susanna has kind of cultivated this reputation as a safe place to send your daughters, and then once you leave them there, she turns around and encourages them to be individuals. She teaches them how to shoot. She, you know, lets them pursue their interests, even if they're not, like, ladylike interests. So it's kind of this, like, secret or hidden gem of a haven for young women. And the love interest, his name is Victor Bramwell, and he is a officer. He's an officer in the military who recently had an injury to his knee. So he has been kind of put on bed rest and is trying to get his command back. So he decides to visit Susanna's father to try and convince him to, like, help him get his command back. The deal is that Victor has a month to kind of scrounge up a militia to defend Spindle Cove, just in case, I guess. And Susanna's like, you can't, it's, you know, you're going to be bringing too many men into the town, you know, this is supposed to be a place for women. And they kind of, that is like the central conflict, is Victor trying to get his command back by impressing the higher-ups with his ability to make a militia in this area. And they fall in love. It's actually, I thought this was a really cute book. There's a little bit too much. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really well written and very cute. And I know that Tessa Dare has a very popular series where it's all like, the Wallflower Wager is one of them. So it's like a word and then something that's like a game or a deal in the next one that starts with like the same letter or something like that. It's really cute. But my biggest complaint is that a lot of this book is discussion about, like, Victor and his friends being like, all of the men in this town have been completely overrun by women. They need to feel like real men again. Like, men need to feel power, and working in this town with so many young girls has castrated them, and, you know, men need to be men and women need to be women. Like, there's a little bit too much of that, like, to the point where I was like, okay, we get it, like, move on. But I really like this book. I feel like Susanna was a very interesting character, because a lot of the times, I would say that romance novels try to do that thing where, especially historical romance, where the girl is always, like, this very spunky feminist kind of, so she's always like, oh, it's a historical time where women are supposed to be demure and quiet. But the main character of this book is relatable because she's, like, loud and she stands up for herself. Like, that's always the dynamic. I thought Susanna was a very interesting kind of blend of the quiet versus kind of outspoken parts of the, like, the tropes that kind of go on with historical fiction. She is, you know, very well spoken, but she cares about propriety and stuff like that. And I feel like they also start their, like, physical relationship fairly early on in the book. It carries on throughout a large portion of the book, which I thought was very interesting as well. And I just really, really liked this. I thought the end was very cute, and I definitely want to read other books in the Spindle Cove series. And the next one is actually in that series. It's a novella that comes later on called Beauty and the Blacksmith, and it is about Diana Highwood, who is a young lady whose mother brings her to Spindle Cove to recover because Diana suffered with childhood asthma. And I guess she's, like, the great beauty of the family, so her mother is like, you know, once you get well, you can snag yourself a duke, you know what I mean? But Diana secretly has a crush on the town blacksmith, Aaron Dawes, and this was a very, very sweet novella. It was longer than I expected it for some reason. Like, I was listening to it. No, I was reading it. I remember something happening and being like, oh, we're getting close to the end, and then only being like halfway through. But this was a very cute novella where basically, because it's a novella, there's not really like a plot. The plot is the relationship, but basically what happens is Diana and Aaron confess that they have feelings for each other fairly early on, and decide that they want to get to know each other. And it was very cute. It wasn't like the steamiest, but it definitely wasn't bad about that. I give it 4 stars. I don't remember if I said that. I will say there was some like name dropping of characters from the rest of the series that I like didn't get because I read this before I like actually read this series. So I don't think it really matters because none of it was like a major plot point, but it was a little annoying to be reading it and being like, I don't really understand what's happening here. But Aaron and Diana were very cute with each other. That's one of my favorite things, is like she like really liked how big and strong he was, and he was like very gentle with her, and it made my heart smile. I'm sorry, I'm realizing these aren't very good reviews. I feel like I didn't prepare well enough for this video maybe, but that's definitely something that I can like learn from. I'll be better next time. But I do want to just move on to the last book that I want to talk about in this roundup of recent romance reads. Oh my god, so many R's, because the next book is Ravished by Amanda Quick, and I actually gave this 5 stars. I have talked about this before. I really, really love Amanda Quick. I feel like she's my favorite. I mean, she is. Not I feel like. She is my favorite historical fiction, like romantical. She's my favorite historical romance author, because she just has a formula that I really, really love. And this was like, I think, one of my favorite Amanda Quick books that I've read in a very long time. Probably because I read a lot of them like very fast several years ago, so like I've kind of been running out. But this one was Ravished, and it's about Harriet Pomeroy, who lives in this town called Upper Biddleton, and she loves fossils. And there is a property nearby hers that kind of is on the coast, and underneath that property is a series of caves, and these caves have, fossils in them. She collects them, she, classifies them, she tries to write about them in like academic journals and stuff like that. So she has been exploring these caves trying to find fossils, and she comes across what she believes is a smuggling ring. So to solve the smuggling ring kind of conundrum, she calls upon Gideon, who is the local, his family owns the largest state, that the caves are under. And Gideon is known as the Beast of Blackthorn, because about 7 years ago he was engaged to a woman who he broke off the engagement when everybody found out she was pregnant, and then she committed suicide. So everybody blames him for her death. They're like, oh, he's a monster. And he kind of hates it, so he's kind of retreated from society because everybody calls him a beast. But Harriet's like, I don't care about that. You need to fix this because people are going to steal my fossils. And I just really, really, really loved this book. I thought the dynamic between them was really good. I thought that they understood each other in a way that was very endearing. Their banter was really cute. He didn't really condescend to her in a way that a lot of other kind of heroes in romance stories condescend to their little wife. But it was just, I really I was reading this and I could not stop smiling because it was so cute. I will say that Harriet's fossils kind of became her personality, but she had enough to carry it off. She had enough behind it to carry it off, but it got a little bit annoying. But other than that, I I really, really liked this. I read it super fast. I thought it was so cute. I will also say Gideon was not nearly as emotionally constipated as romance heroes usually are, so that was really nice. And I just think that this one was the rare story without a murder in it that I really, really liked. Because usually what Amanda Quick does that I enjoy the most is that all of her books kind of start out with either somebody dying or somebody fears for their life or something along those lines. It is so hot in here. But that doesn't happen. There's like no murder in this book. It's just the smuggling ring, and it's still pulled off really, really well. Like, this book was wholesome in a way that I really like. I also feel like, no, I said this already, that the characters just really understood each other. They had a really good chemistry, and it was just a very good chemistry that wasn't the same type of, like, sexual tension. Like, there's usually sexual tension, obviously, it's a romance novel, but this was romantic chemistry, not just sexual chemistry, and it was a joy to read, and I very much liked the experience of reading it. Alright, this video was kind of a shit show, but I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, or if you have any interest in reading these books, or if you have any recommendations for me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!